Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me as always is my good brother here in the temple, the one and only good brother Monarch.
I have absolutely no idea what K-Punk is, but that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, it explains it in like the third page of the thing. So, yeah.
Well, I haven't read it yet.
We are doing our 3-in-1 rule one-shot this week and covering Network 23, which is described as a K-Punk RPG by Alex Buscetto of Mangusta Express. And thank you, Daisy, for the follow. But now we've talked about Cyberpunk in some forms or another. The big reason that I wanted to put Network 23 on the list, and this was determined by our random wheel, is it was doing something Cyberpunk adjacent, and it was doing so with cards. Kind of. Although that being said, I do have to dock a few points on some parts. One, this is a 60-page PDF with no bookmarks. That's a little close to the line. And
even at a glance, this really could probably use some bookmarks.
Yeah. Two, that whole thing of how to draw and read the cards, I feel like that should have been in the back, not in the front.
I'm not gonna get too much on the book's case for that, but it does seem a little odd. Like I don't even know anything about the setting or game, and
Hmm.
it's explaining how to use the cards for the game.
Yeah, that's that flow thing that I've talked about elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it opens up by saying nothing is real, everything is permitted. The centralized consumer society has fallen under its own weight following the Black Monday stock market crash of 1987 and the Black Friday Revolution of 1989. The riots were the last global act before the fragmentation. The millennium has been cancelled. What year is this? Nobody seems to be able to agree. Nations shattered into a myriad of self-governing townships, city-states, and endemic structures. The major urban centers are fortified neon mazes, surrounded by brutalist suburbs, lawless and overgrown. Pirate utopias face off against the autocratic power of the titanic, hyper-technologic citadels, endlessly built by self-replicant and self-repairing automatons, the Buildman. Solar towers and biomass generators sporadically flare up in the boundless off-grid, a melting pot of drifters and revolutionaries, cargo cults and acid communes, plowed by slaves, convoys, and techno-tribes. Obsolete and futuristic technologies coexist next to each other. Neural headsets for accessing K-space in organic 3D printers, punch cards and second-hand cyber limbs. Wars are fought with laser weapons and plasma cutters on radio frequencies as well as our planet nodes. Tears in reality overlook the ever-changing xenoscapes of the Interzone. Lost in its folds are hidden, forgotten civilizations, alien technology, and inorganic demons. Thoughts matter. Technoclist or Algonmaster, insurrectionist or electric sheep, mercenary or merchant, founder or destroyer. A place both wonderful and weird, the vastness of the raved new world contains multitudes, conflicts, and wonders. It's the fertile soil waiting to be sown with fringe ideas and weird subcultures. Once you get the mood, use the guidelines contained herein as a spark to fill the void. There's no unified lore, no global chronology people agree on. There's no map yet for these territories. Make them yours. The off-grid is a place of radioactive wasteland ruled by slave tribes, as well as a place of utopia and weird wonder. Anything conceivable is possible there. Utopia and dystopia face each other in a class of civilizations, while entropy flows undisturbed. The truce is over, the hunt is on, hope you have a nice trip. And then it explains what is meant by K-punk. From the Greek kyber, or governance. K-punk goes back to the rebel roots of cyberpunk and beyond its nihilism, branching towards lost futures and utopias. Its substance over form, its magic realism. Weird, wonderful, and eerie, mostly caustic. See, you can do a cyberpunk that doesn't have to be the Night City dystopia all the time. Yes, I am petty.
I'm gonna be a little petty. I absolutely hate the phrase "the rave new world." It fills me with anger in an indescribable way.
And yet, it fits here. So, after that, it goes into a bit of a description on role-playing games. You don't need me to repeat that. The GM in this game is referred to as the Commissioner, or CM. I am probably going to be using the term GM with that interchangeably just out of sheer habit. I mean, I don't call myself the storyteller from GMing Vampire. I just use Game Master because, well, keep it simple, stupid.
It'll always make sense no matter what the game.
Mm-hmm. But then it goes into the how to use the book, where it talks about the major sections. Then toolbox and sandbox, which is basically stating that this is a game more about presenting a style rather than a world, as well as a bit of advice on using traps and puzzles within the campaign, which admittedly, traps in TTRPGs is one of those things that's kind of hard to get right. But then we have the Rave New World, where it talks about um, about several different types of moods with their own paragraphs. The off-grid being ecopunk, the districts being cyberpunk tech-noir, the concrete jungle being industrial punk, the citadels being transhuman totalitarianism, the slums being, well, ghettos, the no man's land being electro junkyards, the protopia, a rumored utopia, being solar punk, and the interzone being new weird. And each has a set of keywords associated with it. Like, for example, industrial punk, the keywords are vertical dungeon, brutalism, urban guerrilla, strange cults, weird and wild nature. I think there was a bit of a typo with where there was supposed to be a cutoff. The hunt and survival. And the next page is going through a bunch of further moods and how they can be explored. I think it helps reinforce that this is not trying to go for any. I called this cyberpunk earlier, but that's something this can do, but it's not limited to that.
It's cyberpunk and various associated or related genres.
Mm-hmm. I will say that this is tech punk. I think is the best way for me to put it. It is a grab bag of a whole lot of different types of speculative technology. But then we get to character creation.
So with character creation, very quickly, it gives us the base, like our ability scores of body, reflex, empathy, and will. All pretty self-explanatory. Then we get to how the C4 works, which then lists the 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like if you're doing a D4 or dice instead of cards, you'd use a D4 for the soup. There's a section at the beginning that it would explain in more detail how you would do that. But then for the rest of the character creation, we got the step-by-step. 1, grab a character sheet. 2, draw 1c4 plus 2 for each ability. Using them in I think at the very beginning of the book is where it actually explains this, which I'm thinking we might want to roll back up real quick and look at that.
Yeah,
because I see 1c4 plus 2, and that means absolutely nothing to me.
So
This is where the order of the book could have been done a little better for the flow.
Yeah. So as we mentioned before, there's a spot right at the start that goes into how to draw and read the cards. This is using a 54 standard poker deck, jokers included, and then it goes into what a deck is divided into. If you've seen a playing card deck, which I have a hard time believing anyone watching this has not seen a playing card deck in their life, then you know how this works. The C stands for card. The number before the C is how many cards you need to draw. The number after C specifies how you should calculate the value of the card. So 2C10 means you would draw two cards and look at peeps. Wait, what the hell does it mean by peeps?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Is this? I'm guessing. I'm guessing. Let me do a little. Let me do a little search. Yeah, that's the only time that that Peeps is mentioned in this PDF.
So here's the magical thing. I am going to Google playing cards Peeps.
Let's see, C2 is for 50% probabilities. You look at the color, red is 1, black is 2. C4, you look at the suit. Each suit corresponds to a value, numbers don't matter. 25% chance. Hearts is 1, diamond is 2, 3 is clubs, 4 is spades. And
I am going to take a guess and say they meant pips.
That
Small
would still be
symbols
a
on
bit
the
of a stretch
front side
because
of the cards that determine the suit of the cards, right?
that'd still be a bit of a stretch because pips is more of a dice thing, not a card thing.
Seen playing cards, pips are small symbols on the front side of the cards that determine the suit of the card and its rank. So a standard 52 card deck consists of 4 suits and 13 cards. It's still not really explaining what the fuck the pips are.
Yeah, I
So
do.
I have no idea.
Well, in the numbers part, it says pips from 2 to 10, so I think peeps was just a typo.
Yeah.
A typo we ended up spending way too much time on, but a typo nonetheless.
Maybe don't get into really specific terminology for your card thing if you're not going to explain what that means for people who don't know a lot about playing cards. Because this is more information than you'd need than just by knowing what a card deck is.
Yep. So
I think I'll give him a little bit of slack because I believe this was initially translated from another language. So this might be more on just kind of the translation was a little screwy.
that's certainly a possibility.
But yeah.
But with that said, then it goes into
Character creation.
No, what C10, draw until you get a number card. Each face corresponds to a bonus of +1 to add or subtract whichever is better to the number card you will eventually draw. And situational advantages: when you draw 3 or more faces in a row, the success or failure of an action become critical. So, and then it gives an alternative if you want to use dice. So C4, roll the D4. C10, roll the D10. C%, roll D100. C13 and C52 are used specifically for tables. If you really want to use them for C13, you can roll 1d12. The last option becomes lost in translation. For C52, roll 1d4 and 1d12. Cross-reference the results. D12 indicates the row. D4 indicates the columns. And advantages and disadvantages, roll twice and pick the better or worse result. Pegagor. That's another artifact. With C13, you're supposed to compare the card with the corresponding table. Suit doesn't matter. C52, you draw a card and find the correspondence of suit and number. With C100, draw until you get 2 number cards. First one is the 10, the second one is the units. If you draw the red joker, that's a critical success. If you draw the black joker, that's a critical fail. So I think I have an understanding on what it's supposed to be doing. It's just the way in which it was done was kind of messy. So
Yeah.
getting back to character creation, I'll let you pick up on that.
Let's go. Step 1, grab a character sheet. Step 2, draw 1 C4 plus 2 for each ability. Assign them in order or freely distribute between the 4 abilities. 3, determine or calculate derived attributes. Body plus reflex times 2 will be your hit points. Empathy plus will times 2 will be your mental balance, which is your resistance to trauma. And we got thoughts. 4. Draw your main thought. 1C52. It indicates your origins and regulates your worldview. It also determines what moves and advancement and starting equipment are at your disposal. We get 5. Write down in lapis the 2 moves at your disposal. Okay, this is really weird to read because, as I said, 5, it goes write down in lapis the 2 moves, which is all bolded and underlined, and then immediately goes at your disposal.
Yeah. That says,
I think there's some pretty big issues with this in regards to this translation. It is not the smoothest reading document we have seen. So if I sound like I'm having a stroke, I blame it on this PDF. But alright.
Mm-hmm.
So write down in lapis the 2 moves at your disposal. Choose one and retrace it in pen. Your starting move.
That's gonna make this a little bit awkward to play on VTTs. So
Okay. In the following sessions, hopefully you acquire sufficient experience to enhance your skills, learn moves, and adopt new thoughts. And 6, freely blacken 3 skill points. And then we get into a sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
For skills, how good you are at carrying out a particular task. Skills are a positive bonus, plus 1 point, added to relevant tests. You don't need points allocated in a skill to attempt an action. Abilities are marked on the character sheet by blackening the corresponding dots. Abilities max out at 6. So each skill is supported to an ability, or subordinated to an ability. For body, you have, say, wrestle, resistance mechanics, reflex, hand-eye coordination, mobility and driving, empathy, cold reading, medicine, manipulation, and will. Cool, interface, synchrony.
Mm-hmm.
This formatting in this is weird. I would not have used a side box for this.
Yep. But
We'll go on to inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So for step 7, calculate how many equipment slots you can use, which it'll be body plus resistance times 2. Normal objects use up to 1 slot. Voluminous objects take 2 or more. Money, ammo, and small objects take none. When maximum encumbrance is reached, the character moves at half speed and suffers disadvantage on all body and reflex tests. I have no idea what the context of disadvantage is in this game yet, so right now that means nothing to me.
Draw two and take the worst.
I imagine that's the case.
It said so right at the top of that how to read the cards thing.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. My bad. I was thinking I was looking up the pit stuff when you read that. So my bad. Then we get a box with descriptions of all the skills we just went over.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes into social conflicts. For each intimidation or manipulation attempt, the player must specify how they're trying to sway the antagonist. According to NPC's goals and personality, the manipulation employed can incur in advantages or disadvantages. A beefy slaver won't be intimidated easily and won't care about bureaucracy. Most social conflicts are quickly resolved by testing under the appropriate skill and ability. When trying to sway important NPCs, use a duel by pitching the relevant PC skill against the NPC's morale. The CM can ask the player to roleplay the manipulation attempt. Convincing interactions provide an advantage. Why is this here? Like, I don't mind the fact that they have a rule set for social conflicts. It's just feels in the wrong spot. Again, the flow thing I talked about before. But then we have moves. Thoughts enable moves, special talents you can use once per session. Moves always succeed. The player triggers the move by telling the CM that they are doing so, and then proceeds, adding details about the way they want the move to play out. When a move has high failure chances or is made difficult by environmental factors, draw a card. If a number card or an ace is drawn, the action is a complete success. A figure card is a mixed success with unwanted consequences established by the CM. I think by figure card what's meant is face card.
We'll go with that. We'll assume that until we have reason to assume otherwise.
The unwanted consequences of mixed successes must be improvised by the CM on a case-by-case basis according to the environment, the situation, and the stakes. Some moves are left vague by design, leaving it up to the CM to create interesting, unforeseen consequences. As an optional rule, you can let players use moves more than once per session. From the second time onward, the same move is used, a figure card is needed for success, while a number card means failure. And it goes into a bit of an example. And it says, if the CM thinks the idea will bring unbalance, or if it's straight up impossible, they can add new troubles to be solved before obtaining the desired result. Not enough raw materials, an important piece is missing, it can't be remote controlled, more skilled workers are needed, etc. So then we have contacts. Getting in touch with a contact is similar to triggering a move. Once per adventure, the player can try and reach out to the contact. The first time the player reaches out to the contact, they can suggest an outline of their personality along with a plausible way to get in touch with them. Then the player draws a card. An ace/figure means that the contact is raised straight away. A number card means the contact is momentarily unavailable, but got the message and will get back in touch later on. The CM and the player then proceed to place the new NPC inside the campaign world. The contact will help the player within their sphere of influence, asking for something in return. If you know where to find me. During an adventure, the CM can promote an NPC to become a permanent contact as a result of worthy interactions with the party. And then we have the Rows of Thoughts.
I'm going to take a step back a second.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is with this picture of this woman randomly holding her head?
There's a lot of that kind of art in this that I can best describe as using stock art to do what you can. I'm not knocking it. It's just it's something that comes with the territory, especially when you're dealing with indies.
I know. What the fuck does this have to do with anything we've looked at? Okay. There's a picture right after it too, so they could have just pulled that out.
Yeah, I don't know why there's two splash pictures back to back like that. And it's not like it's not like it's a 2-page spread or anything. But then we have the chart known as the Rows of Thoughts, which was already covered to demonstrate both the starting equipment and the and some of the core outlook, as well as a few things to lean into. These suits are off-grid, jungle, districts, and slums, which we've kind of hinted at, and each one has a collection of outlooks. The suit, i.e. the mood, will also determine the will also determine the starting equipment. And then the next few pages go into each card combination that could be drawn. So you're going to be drawing 2 cards for Yeah, you're going to be drawing two cards for this. And each one has a couple side little notes. But after that is memetics. And I'll let you take that.
Scroll down through all these. There's a good number of pages of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, memetics. Memetic theory applies the evolutionary model to the study of thought and cultural information transfer, attempting to describe how an idea propagates successfully. And thoughts shape the way reality is seen and understood, determine moral values, and influence characters' decisions. They also create a personal agenda, are role-playing prompts, are the foundation of Network 23's progression system, determine available moves and offer spendable ability points, and are calls to adventure. The Rose of Thoughts gathers 52 subcultures, ethics, ideals, and obsessions commonly found throughout the Rave New world. During character creation, the first thought is assigned or chosen. Thoughts matter. Ideas and ideals influence the character's attitude towards the outside world. Character progression is tied to the thought system. As characters accumulate experience, they can spend them developing thoughts that they developing thoughts they previously seeded. Each thought is linked to 2 different moves and 2 ability advancements, purchased with experience. Advancement represents character growing in the process of self-discovery. The thought system facilitates player-driven storytelling. Finding and developing thoughts can be the adventure starting point.
See, and then we have transmission and adoption with a interesting photograph of 2 horses. First, transmission. Before being internalized, thoughts must be encountered. Communities, people, and media hold seeds of different thoughts. PCs can gather the seeds through meaningful interaction with its carrier, studying a book, having a lengthy discussion with NPCs, community acceptance. Once acquired, a PC's seeds can be autonomously developed. Then transmission from NPC to PC presumes the PCs have time for a meaningful exchange of ideas and opinions. A quick chat on the side of the road is insufficient. Transmission through books and media. The prolonged study of certain books and media can lead to the discovery and adoption of rare or even extinct seeds. After a day's study, it's possible to know what thought is enshrined within. Gathering the seed takes 3 days' study. And transmission community to PC. If the PCs are hosted and spend a convivial night with a friendly community, they can accept their thought seeds. Then sowing. Once encountered, a thought can be sown, mark it on the character sheet's seed slot. 1 seed at a time can be parked in the seed slot to be developed. Then adoption. Thoughts are adopted and developed through reinforcement. A thought is considered to be adopted once the character has role-played it at least once during a session. Once reinforced, the seed can germinate into a full-fledged thought, moving to an empty thought slot and penciling in the advancements which become available through XP expenditure. Then interactions. There are 52 starting thoughts. A player can have up to 3 active thoughts simultaneously. When 2 thoughts are adopted, the player must find ways to make them coexist. And then development. Each thought has 5 possible developments. The earlier 4 advancements provide 2 moves and 2 skill points in no particular order. The 5th development awards an ability to be spent on one of the 2 abilities whose suit symbol is shown next to the thought description. The ability point is always awarded as the 5th and final achievement. So, and then how to develop a thought. Go to the thought's description, pages 18 through 30. Next to it, there are 2 suit symbols, each corresponding to a main ability. body, reflex, empathy, and will. When advancing, you can choose to gain a move or add a skill or ability point. Adding a skill point, you looking at the two suit symbols, each symbolizing an ability. Improve one of the 3 skills connected to an available ability. Then dropout. Characters' minds only have space for 3 adopted thoughts. Additional thoughts can be stored as a seed. If you've already adopted 3 thoughts but want to adopt a new one, you must drop a thought to make space. When dropping a thought, you lose all its moves but retain skill and ability points. And transgressions, compulsive neglect, and taboo. If a character acts in a manner diametrically opposed to an adopted thought, at CM discretion, they must mark a transgression next to it. 3 transgressions result in abandoning the thought, losing moves and ability points. Then getting experienced. At the end of each session, survivors gain 1 experience. The CM can assign additional XP for achieving player objectives, like improving the community PCs reside in, making the world a better place by getting filthy rich, or by getting filthy rich without getting killed. I have some thoughts on this, but I'll save that for later because I want to confirm something first. So, next is experience points and development, and I'll let you take that.
Yeah. So each session awards 1 experience point. A little weird they mentioned this a second time in a row, but we'll run with it. The CM may award additional XPs at the end of an adventure. Advancements relative to your first thought cost 1 player experience. Advancements relative to the second and third cost 3. Healing from a mental condition costs 1 experience. That's interesting, using your experience to recover from mental conditions. You can spend XP to develop a thought, transform a seed into a thought, heal from a mental condition. Again, it just barely told us that. Note unspent experience in the character sheets. Note unspent experience in the character sheets, upper left corner. The fireplace, spending experience. Experience can be converted into advancements whenever the PCs find a secure place for a long rest. Before setting the watch, the characters gather around a fire or a TV, unwind the tension, exchange jokes, stories, anecdotes. Each player who interpreted a thought before the rest can spend XP to develop it. Proceed to assign the points and write down chosen advancements. Triggering moves, roleplay, or use of knowledge relative to a thought count as interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we just get a quick example here. If you choose to roleplay the fireplace, let the characters interact while they recount anecdotes and possibly talk about their thoughts. You can let players do a recap each time they enjoy a fireplace. If a certain thought has not been interpreted, it can't be advanced, and XP is stored for future use.
Let's see. Then we have the player's rules. And this is where we start getting into some of the crunch. First being tests. When a meaningful action's outcome is uncertain, the CM can ask to draw a card determining the outcome. Draw low. Success is achieved by drawing lower or equal than a target number. Target number equals ability plus skill if relevant. So, resolution, the ability score to determine the target number not to be exceeded or busted. Draw until a number card is revealed, leave all figures aside. Each figure grants +1 to target number. If a result exceeds the target number, the attempt fails, otherwise the action succeeds. So it's given the fact that it's aim low, I was going to say I'm assuming that it's aces low, but aces are critical successes, as it says in a moment. Skills obviously add to the target number. So it goes aces, I don't know why they put a spade there, are critical successes. Deuces are mixed successes, i.e., you succeed, but red joker is a critical success, black joker is an abject failure, as mentioned before. Drawing 3.
Is it possible only ace of spades is the critical success?
If it is, that's stupid.
Don't get me wrong, I like me a good Motorhead reference, but I agree.
I would only approve of that if it was a case where drawing the ace of spades in, say, combat is a one-hit KO. You know, since that card is associated with death.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you, and that was probably just supposed to be ace.
Mm-hmm. Drawing 3 figures in a row makes the result critical. Then situational advantages and disadvantages. When attempting a test, if you have a situational advantages, each figure's bonus goes up, but increases to +2. When testing at disadvantage, figures are ignored and have no value. Advantages and disadvantages cancel each other out and are cumulative. The commissioner calls and calculates advantages and disadvantages before cards are drawn. And then we have the underdog and upper hand rule. When advantages and disadvantages pile up tall enough, a test ends up failing or succeeding if any figure is drawn at all. These cases, total advantage and disadvantage, are called underdog and upper hand. So it's not a case of draw 2, drop the other with advantage and disadvantage. It is moving the effects of face cards. Except what are the... You know what?
This is a bit of a confusing read. I'm gonna be straight with you.
Like I understand what the intent is. It's just the way it's presented has some issues. Then
I guess we can move on to difficulty next.
Yeah. Then difficulty.
So adjust the test modifiers according to the action's difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
Easy is advantage. Normal, use the non-modified ability score as target number. Hard, disadvantage. Hardcore, underdog, -2 malice to target number.
See, that I know is a typo.
Yeah. Then you got raising the stakes. After failing on a test, the character can attempt the test for a second time, raising the stakes. The commissioner then puts unwanted consequences for failure on the table.
Mm-hmm.
What could happen must be clear before the player draws again. When stakes are high, all failures are critical.
Let's see.
Excuse me. See, I will say, this is the first time I've looked at something like, I like this.
Yeah. Also, hey there, Bill. Let's see, then we have saves. Whenever you need to resist to an undesired effect, the commissioner could call for a save, which are resolved just like an ability test. Draw lower or get burned. To avoid the boulder tumbling towards your car, save against reflex plus driving. For mentally resisting the indoctrination of a viral interzone entity, save against will. And then mental balance saves. Which it says mental balance saves can be called when a bad or horrific situation tests your psychic integrity. Since MB value can easily exceed 10, MB saves can be impossible to fail. Great, keep it that way. Some perils affecting mental balance have 2 values. The first one is a failed save's MB loss, and the second, between parentheses, is the MB loss for a successful save, as in 1C10 2 MB. Mental balance is a statistic which, like HP, goes up and down during the game. The lower the number, the higher the possibility to lose more points.
So every time you start to lose your mind a little bit, it becomes harder and harder to keep a hold of it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea at the very least. But yeah, then we move on to combat. Surprise. If one party wishes to surprise the opponent, whether a sudden hostility arising out of the blue during a specific conversation, or two warring sides unexpectedly coming face to face, test for surprise with a reflex test for each player. The commissioner only draws one threat test for the enemies as a group. Anyone who fails cannot act during the first round. Initiative. The commissioner and one player each draws a card for the whole group. High card wins. Ace trumps king. Trump kings. Is that working under the assumption aces are low? Now. That's how I'm choosing to read this. The side who draws highest acts first. The players act in clockwise order. Enemies act all together. Actions. Each combat round, you can take a standard action and a movement actions. So fighting. Melee weapons always hit, while firearms and ranged weapons require a hand-eye coordination test to hit. To apply damage, you need to draw under your skill while exceeding your opponent's armor value. If successful, draw damage. Excuse me.
I've mentioned this before, but I'm not a big fan of when systems do both aim high and aim low in the same book.
Yeah.
That's a personal pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. But yes,
like, if you're doing aim low except for damage, that's fine. It's when you're doing aim high for some rolls and effects and aim low for other effects. That's where I feel a line has been crossed.
I think it kind of adds more to the frustration here because I'm thinking a good chunk of my issues are coming from the translation might have been botched. But this is not a very easy system to follow so far. Between just some bad formatting choices, typos, odd wording. I'm not entirely sure I have followed everything we've read so far. And to add that to all of this, to go ahead and finish this bit on fighting. If you hit but fail to exceed your opponent's armor value, the damage is absorbed. Lower armor value by 1 for each hit until it gets repaired. During melee combat, which does not require a draw to hit, the defender can choose to let armor absorb the damage, lowering armor value before damage is drawn. So even both ranged and melee act fairly differently for how they resolve, which I'm also not really liking.
Yeah, then we have maneuvers. Each interaction with the opponent besides a direct attack, disarm, push, hold, and so on is resolved as a contest. If the stakes are high, resolve the maneuver as a duel instead. Each person assisting the maneuver grants an advantage. And reactions are actions performed out of the initiative order reacting to a trigger. A reaction can be executed only if your action for the current round hasn't been used yet and costs a standard action. Attempting to dodge an attack is a common reaction. So you can only react if you haven't acted yet.
There's a world where that would make sense to me, I think.
Let's see. Then we have distance segments. Basically the ranges which are engaged, near, medium, long, and extreme. as well as the optimal range. Each segment away from the optimal makes hitting more difficult. Maximum movement during a round is 2 segments, one with the movement action and one with the standard action. If engaged at melee, ranged weapons and firearms can't be operated. When shooting somebody engaged in melee combat, missing the target has a 25% chance of hitting the other party. And then we have the standard actions, so attack and shoot, which we already covered. Retreat, move from engaged to near, avoiding opportunity attacks. Aiming, spend your round aiming and gain advantage on all ranged hit draws the following round. Dodge, a reaction before the enemy applies damage, pass a mobility test to dodge a melee attack. Preparing an action, self-explanatory. Reloading, also self-explanatory. And maneuver, which we already covered. Then the movement actions are movement and quick reload. Quick reload is loading 1 bullet. And then we have contests, or opposed test. I'll let you take that.
Alright, real quick, I did just get a sudden disconnect and reconnect sound in my headset. Are you hearing me fine?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good then. It only cut you out for like a second for what I was hearing. It was a little weird.
Yeah, these things happen.
What was I reading again?
Contests, page 38.
Contests, 38, okay. So success is not always enough to beat the opponent. Sometimes you must do better than the opponent. The contest is an asymmetrical opposed skill test. One contestant tries to impose an effect on somebody, actively avoiding it. The stakes are declared beforehand and must be clear before cards are drawn. If the CM decides the stakes are too high for a simple contest, death or total incapacitation are on the table, let the player know that the action will be treated as a duel, with more dangerous repercussions in case of failure. Then ask if they want to continue. To win a contest, your draw must exceed your opponent's without exceeding your target number. Alright. Winning the contest. First, determine target numbers. And combine their ability score with the relevant skill. If applicable, for NPCs and monsters, use their threat stat. Both contenders simultaneously draw the first card. Like any other test, keep drawing until you draw a number card. Determine figures value, adding +1 to the result and raising the target number. When drawing with advantage, figures add +2. When drawing with disadvantage, ignore figures. Double disadvantage means every figure gains a -1 malus. Aces count as figures. Right. If the attacker wins, the action succeeds. If the defender wins, the action fails. Have you ever read something where you think, is the person I'm talking to under the assumption I am an idiot?
Yes.
Okay. In case of a draw, or if both contenders go bust, the action fails. The effect is avoided, and the situation precipitates. And then we get into duels. When the stakes are high or death is on the table, contests escalate into duels. Duels are resolved through the blackjack mechanic, similar to contests, with the following differences. Am I losing my mind? Have we actually heard the blackjack mechanic before this?
No, and let me check something. Once again, this is the only time that's
I don't think that was mentioned ever before this moment.
I think it's meant that it works the same way with contests. You're supposed to get higher than your opponents and higher than your opponents without going over your TN, which again, kind of clashes with the whole aim low thing.
Okay.
This is not the most elegant way to use blackjack-like mechanics in a TTRPG.
Alright. So, first, the challenger negotiates the stakes beforehand, clearly stating that they want to achieve or what they want to achieve if they win. The commissioner makes a ruling about possible outcomes' validity. Follow the tenet of high risk, high reward. Challengers determine target numbers. Combined ability score, adding a relevant skill or threat if applicable, and double the result. To win a duel, you must exceed your opponent's draw without exceeding the target. Yes, duels are resolved in rounds. Both duelists simultaneously draw and flip a card on the table. If both duelists go bust, the situation Why is it just now talking like we're playing blackjack? Oh, my brain. So if duelists both go bust, the situation precipitates and things get worse for both parties. It might mean getting hit, damaging the vehicle, and so on. Treat advantages and disadvantages like contests. After the first round, 2 actions are possible. Call. For a new card, draw and add its value to the total. Wait. Draw no card and skip the round. Oh, that's why. This is the one mechanic they decided to actually play out like blackjack. Anyway, wait. The duelist with the upper hand is in a better position and wait. The duelist with the lower cards has to call and try to best their opponent. The duel ends when a duelist busts, exceeding the target number. If duelists have the same target number and both parts reach it, whoever got to it with more cards wins. So, the winner described.
I ended up
This is me pounding my head.
I ended up playing a fair amount of blackjack through a lot of casino simulation PC games I had in the office as a kid. The idea of referring to drawing a new card as call, I have never seen that in any form of blackjack, and I've gone through more than my fair share.
It's hit.
It is hit me, or you knock on the table twice. This is not rocket science, and nobody calls it wait. You want to know what game? You want to know what game does use the term call quite a bit? Poker.
Poker. I don't even know, man.
Moving right along, we have a quick enemy stat block. Why is this here? I feel like this should be later on. Let's see, then critical hits. When attacking, red joker, aces, or 3 consecutive figures cause critical damage. Draw twice. Healing. Oh, 8 consecutive hours rest or long rest restores 1 C10 hit points and 1 C10 mental balance. It's possible to rest once a day. A short rest, 1 hour, restores 1 C4 HP with a successful medicine test.
I feel like they probably should have defined long rest earlier, considering it's come up a few times. But I'm just kind of expecting that out of this book at this point.
Yeah. Then death and unconsciousness at 0 HP. Characters are unconscious. Test resistance. Failure means death. Otherwise, they remain unconscious until stabilized at 1 HP with a successful medicine test. Let's see. Then drugs and addiction. If an addictive drug is used more than three times a week, pass a will test, or become addicted. Highly addictive drugs grant disadvantage. A addicted character must pass a will test to avoid consuming the drug when possible. 3 successful will tests in a row terminate the addiction. The CM should make a ruling about the ability's withdrawal effects, which are tested at disadvantage while the condition persists. Then scarcity, water, food, addiction, exhaustion. Going prolonged periods without food or water, addictions, or serious exhaustion give disadvantage in all tests while the condition... I feel like that could use a rewrite.
Look, if we stop and mention every time something in this could use a rewrite, we will be here a lot longer than we need to.
Mm-hmm. Then we have mental balance. Horrific visions, disquieting events, and sudden traumas may call for an MB test to maintain composure. Traumatic events have 2 different loss ranges. Seeing a flare bot at work on humans provokes 1C10, 1C4 MB loss. Use the bracketed value if successful. When the mental balance score exceeds 9, the test only fails when drawing an abject failure, 10s or the Black Joker. At 0 mental balance, draw on the table below, determining the breakdown's effects, including the duration. Below 0 MB, every new trauma triggers a mental breakdown table roll. If MB becomes positive without curing the condition, it becomes dormant, returning to haunt the player whenever reduced below 0 MB. Some enemies and psychic powers attack mental balance instead of hit points. Then we have the chart. Although, given the fact that if you draw a king, you could be completely screwed. Because drawing a king is broken. You're in pieces. Crocs won't ever fit back together. Farewell.
I'm not too fond of that. It's like one of the issues of the deck of many things. You can just pull something. It's like, well, you're just done for just one bad card pull.
I'm fine with having that. With having that as where you eventually get to that point. But
yeah, like if there's some kind of progression towards it, yeah. And considering the assumption is I'm going to say is you're going to have people that are going to hit a mental breakdown at some point.
But
so every time that happens, it's just, well, let's hope I'm not completely fucked.
But you still got a 1 in 13 chance of being fucked. Now I realize this game is trying to go for a much more brutal style. But that's still a but drawing
it's a higher than a critical success or failure in a D20 game.
Yeah, that's about 7.6%.
Yeah. It's like I wouldn't like this at a 5% chance of, well, I guess you're just dead now.
Mm-hmm. But then we have chases and races.
Actually, I'm going to go back to that statistics for a second. That holds true if you're doing dice. If you're doing cards, if I remember right, like
suit doesn't
you don't
matter.
just reshuffle. No, it's more you don't reshuffle back in every time, do you? I thought you reshuffled after at a certain point.
You reshuffle when you start the session, but that's it.
Yeah. So it's a potentially higher depending on what cards have been pulled out of the deck before that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not necessarily pulling that out of a full deck. Also potentially lower, though.
Yeah.
But yes, anyway, sorry. I'll go on to chases and races. Draw the track as 10 connected boxes in a row. Each one is a position. Starting grid. During a chase, the prey starts in 3rd position and the hunter in 1st position. The chase ends when the prey passes the 10th position or the hunter stops the prey. A race ends when the finish line is crossed. The commissioner prepares beforehand 2 or more obstacles and places them in boxes, which are revealed when they get into the line of sight. Now, line of sight, in urban environments, the line of sight is 2 positions. In the open field, the visual is 5, barring fog, rain, or dust impairing vision. Excuse me. Speed orders of magnitude. Men and juggernauts, horses and vans, motorbikes and racing cars belong to different orders of magnitude of speed. Slower contenders' movement is fixed at 1. Consider the relative difference in speed, rating the quicker vehicle accordingly. A vehicle particularly suited for the road condition, a horse or a 4x4 pickup going off-road, is worth a +1 magnitude bonus. Now for initiative. At each round of the chase's start, the contenders draw an initiative. Higher card plus driving or mobility win initiative. Who wins initiative chooses who moves first. So let's not even go to roll under anymore. Just higher number wins now. We're at what? 3 different resolution systems?
Yeah. So then we have maneuvers. Cruise speed, advance 1 position.
Oh. I will mention this just because I didn't read round.
Yep.
During a round, every character can carry out 1 maneuver.
So then we have maneuvers. Cruise speed, advance 1 position, gain advantage in all driving/mobility tests, have potential damage due to obstacles/collision. Shooting from the vehicle is possible without malice. I feel like malice is supposed to be disadvantage. Otherwise, we have no idea what malice is supposed to be. Let's see. Accelerate, advance 2 positions. All damage due to collisions are raised by 1. Shooting from the vehicle is disadvantage. And breakneck speed, advance 3 positions. Disadvantage in all tests. It's not possible to shoot from the vehicle. All collision damage is raised by 3. Damage to obstacles is doubled. Then ramming. Ram another vehicle in the same or an adjacent position. Contest driving versus cool. The loser's vehicle takes 1c4 build damage. What the fuck is build damage? Cutting the road off. Only possible to attempt from the same position. The hunter advances 1 position while attempting to drive the prey off-road or against an obstacle. The hunter advances 1 position. Proceed to a duel of driving hunter driving against cool hunter and prey respectively. The hunter draws with disadvantage. If the hunter wins, the chase ends. If the prey wins, for the next round the hunter can only move at its cruise speed. There's one particular flaw with this particular system. What if you're dealing with multiple participants? Like, what if somebody wants to do a full-on Mad Max style convoy battle? Which I know someone might say that that's kind of specific, but if you're doing this sandbox style approach, that's something you should take into account.
Yeah, that's not even like some like weird thing you would not expect a player doing a game like this to expect to happen. It almost seems inevitable that is something that is going to happen. I have scrolled down real quick just to make sure we weren't saying this preemptively. It does not seem to come up unless it's buried in an appendix somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so then we have hazards. A driving or mobility test is required to overcome an obstacle or hazard. Mud, you test cool and only move at cruise speed for the next round if not on a 4x4. Suddenly lorry, cutting the road off, driving test to avoid collision. Fog, reduce visibility to 0. Bend, if accelerating, test driving or end up off-road. Fallen tree, test driving or suffer 1c10 build points and lose remaining movement for the round. See, then we have shooting from a moving vehicle, which works like a normal hand-eye coordination test. Each shot inflicts 1 build point damage to the opponent's vehicle. Then collision. When the collision happens, you compare the obstacle's build points with the vehicle's build. Remember, vehicles at breakneck speed do twice damage to build points. The one with less build points is wrecked. When an obstacle is wrecked, it deals half its build points to its wrecker. A vehicle reaching 0 build points is wrecked. Passengers make a saving draw using the vehicle armor value as target number. On a failure, they suffer the same damage as the vehicle. If successful, they take half. Then we have some examples of build points. So you could say that build points are the vehicle equivalent to hit points.
Object hit points, because it applies to vehicles, walls, trees, a crowd of people.
Which I guess,
crowd of people
but the problem is it doesn't say that. And it is important to say that. Then we have the consumer's guide, which is basically the equipment section. The main thing to note is availability, i.e. and it's basically the type of places where it can be gained. So C for citadels, D for districts, J for jungle, S for slum, I for infed, O for off-grid, X is common object. Let's see, and then it goes for that for a bit, and as well as the weapon abilities key. Then weapons proper. With some weapons it does require some prereqs. Let's see, then armor, which we've already covered somewhat how armor works. The pieces for armor are chest, legs, arms, and head. I'm not entirely sure why this kind of game is doing that when it's already going to be leaning very abstract.
Yeah. I wasn't even considering they were going to be doing like body part specific pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not exactly sure how that's going to end up mattering.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember anything about targeting body parts.
Mm-hmm. Then vehicles, though there isn't a label at the top to separate it. Though you can modify parts with repairs, tuning, and modifications, which they call the table "Pimp Your Ride."
Of course they do. Because that's a reference I was expecting to come up in this game.
Then we have entropy. Entropy measures the system's corruption, its tendency to disgregation, information degenerating into noise. The entropy increment derives from inconsiderate exploitation of natural resources and tears in the synchronic wave propagating in a viral manner. Falling into the entropy spiral implicates a greater permeability to the ugly spirit and inner zone viral entities' negative influences. It ends up with the appearance of physical stigmas with the complete disgregation of organs and personality. For each entropy gained, blacken the character sheet with the corresponding entropy circlets. It can be temporary or permanent. Whenever you blacken entropy, compare the level with the current mental balance. If it surpasses mental balance, circle an ability representing an organ's corruption and receive a stigma. Delete all temporary entropy and add 1c4 permanent entropy. If all abilities are circled, the character is corrupted, irredeemably becoming an anathema, and joins their horrid displaced army to roam the off-grid dark corners. And we have a chart of potential stigmas, which is it's basically the mutation. Then a list of drugs, and then after that is the commissioner's files, which is pretty much mostly fluff, I'd say, with a bit of a thing on writing adventures for it and creating advanced stat blocks, as well as a large list of inspirational media, and finally the character sheet itself. So, ooh. This escalated quickly. I mean, this really got out of hand fast.
Why is the armor a Triforce?
I guess because
What are the random references that just came up here at the end that have nothing to do with anything?
But
oh, this is actively making me angry.
I will say this. I think the concept of moves could use a little bit more guidance. Especially since it's a limited use auto win. When it comes to the card-based mechanic, I feel in a lot of cases this is a game that gets in its own way because it overcomplicates. Overcomplicates makes it sound like there's a bunch of crunch. That's not really the case. It's more of the crunch that is added in some places does not feel as intuitive as it could be, which is surprising because you would think playing cards are going to be some of the most intuitive setups you could ask for. But the fact that it wants to do blackjack in some situations, wants to do aim high in some situations, aim low in some situations, that just annoys me. Pick a lane, fucking stick to it.
Here comes my problem here. Is I don't even know if I can rate like how the game's supposed to play because as mentioned earlier, I'm not entirely sure I understand how this is supposed to go. And I think in large part it is because this is a translation. And because of the weird choice of words, this is not a good translation.
Yeah, I can figure it out, but it does not do itself any favors with how certain parts are presented.
Yeah. Like, I'm largely sure I would know how to play this game if for some reason I were to sit down and do it. But I do none of that with confidence.
Yeah. Now, as far as where I would rate Network 23 within my metric, honestly, I can't go any higher than caution. Because even if I were to do this raw, because of the fact that it's more based on a style, the GM is going to have to do some extra work just creating whatever sandbox is being done. And if I'm being honest, this thing is borderline a universalist game. In the way Fate is a universalist game. Although I would sooner play this than play Fate. The big reason that I can't go any higher than caution has to do with the fact that that there's way too many asterisks with who I could recommend this to, and no matter what, the GM is going to have to do some extra legwork. And it's extra legwork in terms of hacking some of the presentation to make it a little bit more malleable for the players to read how things are supposed to fucking work.
Yeah.
I can't put that as playable. I am being generous in not giving it a void. I do think there's some kernels of ideas, but you're gonna have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting.
I'd toss this in a void.
Now,
I can't imagine it being worth the work to even make this run.
I'm only saying that because I'm biased towards using card-based mechanics. Because I do think there's still a lot of untapped potential in using cards.
I'd be entirely down to play a game with a deck of cards. That sounds fun.
Oh, there's plenty of other examples that do use cards. I've covered several there, and I may include one of them in a VTT down for Cloister down the road. I just need to figure out how to use the deck in a way that isn't going to feel awkward.
Yeah.
Unless if there's a playing card deck variant of a Discord bot, someone let me know and I'll look into that as well.
Like, I would like to see how this reads if it had a better translation. I don't imagine it's going to fix a lot of problems because some of these issues are just how it's formatted. It is not a well-organized book. And I don't think that's on the translation. Unless they changed a lot while translating it, but I will assume for the time being it is formatted effectively the same way.
Yeah,
Give Network 23 a second edition. And fix this shit. That's what I would like to see. Because I'm with you, there's some good ideas here.
there's some good ideas, but
I also think it's an alright character sheet for what we read. I'll
Yeah.
give him that. I'll say something nice.
and like I said, I don't relish the idea of just tearing these kind of projects a new one, because I do think experimentation in the tabletop space is a vital thing to have. But I also have to be fair.
Like, it's one, if someone wanted to build something based off what they read here, I'd be all for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could do something with these ideas.
Yeah. Now that being said, let me address the elephant in the room, Monarch. Is this better or is this worse than Valhalla?
Okay. I'll say it's better.
I can agree with that.
It's congratulations on jumping that bar.
Look, if FEMA is going to use Waffle Houses as a emergency standard, then I think we are within our rights to use what is the worst RPG that you and I have covered in Valley of the Judged as a metric.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not kidding, people. FEMA actually to determine whether or not shit is at the fan, FEMA ends up asking, "Okay, is Waffle House closed?" If it's open, then the storm can be weathered. If it's open but they're not cooking, start to get concerned. If it's closed, panic. Also, I'm pretty sure the internet is going to bully Harada into putting a Waffle House stage in Tekken 8.
I hope it happens.
It's
just watching people try to explain to him Waffle House has been a treat.
It is.
How insane do we have to look?
Well, people have already modded a Waffle House backdrop in some fighters. I mean, it's just a background image, but it's something.
Yeah.
But in our case, we have the Valhalla standard. Is it bad, and is it worse than Valhalla? And believe me, there are worse RPGs than Valhalla. It's just that we haven't covered those, and with with some of the really bad RPGs, we never will cover them in this channel. Like,
Look, there has to be a point you can just look at something and go, okay, this is going to be so trash. No, off the wheel. We're doing something else.
well, there's some
Those
games
would be
that
the ones worst of all.
there's some games that I have that I could put on the wheel that I outright refuse to unless I am sufficiently paid. You know, the low hanging fruit. You know, like the unholy trinity. Your World of Cinnabars. Your I'm never doing Fatal. If we do Fatal, I'm gonna get kicked off of YouTube and Twitch.
I've played Cinnabar. It's okay. It has some. It's better than Valhalla. I will still say that. Having played Cinnabar, it is better than Valhalla. I would play that again before Valhalla. I'd ever try Valhalla.
I've already made clear I'm not touching anything Palladium anytime soon. I know Routes will defend Palladium, but even he will not defend the formatting of Palladium books. And
How's Palladium again?
Rifts.
Right.
And you know how I am regarding navigation in RPG books. And of course, I have said up and down I will never run Phoenix Command or the original Alien RPG unless I am paid in advance. And I'm not going to subject anyone else to it. But like I said, if Network 23 were to have more of a chance, I really think that it needs some cleanup and some application of the KISS method when it comes to some of its mechanics. But other than that, things will be relatively good. But that is going to do it for this particular episode. We will be wrapping up our look at Cursebrand Chronicles next week. And then after that, doing our one shot, and we will be going right to the next season, which I will be making an announcement on very soon. Probably.
It's going to be so nice to go back to a game I look forward to reading more about after this.
Right? Are you talking about Cursebrand Chronicles or what's coming after that?
Cursebrand. Because I don't know if I'm going to enjoy what's after that. I at least know I've been enjoying Cursebrand, so I at least have that for next week.
Fair. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.